My name is Cadence. I work the closing shift at a small, forgotten dive bar tucked away in the quieter part of town. It's nothing remarkable, just a dim, smoke-tinged haunt off the highway. The kind of place where time seems to hang in the air, and the jukebox plays the same tired set of classic rock like a broken record on a loop. Most nights, it's the usual mix. Weathered locals, truckers passing through, and the occasional tourist who looks like they took a wrong turn somewhere darker than expected. I've grown used to the rhythm. It's predictable. The tips are decent. And I've figured out how to handle the regular archetypes. The chatty ones, the lonely drinkers, the ones who flirt, and the ones who'd rather just disappear into the bottom of their glass. Weekends are madness, sure. But weekdays are when I'm alone. No barback, no other staff. Just me, the hum of flickering neon, and the endless creak of old wood under tired boots. Maybe that's why I noticed him right away. He came in late after the place had quieted to a hush. Tall, late 40s maybe. Impeccably dressed in a black turtleneck and a trench coat that looked expensive, but understated. He didn't belong here. Not in this rundown place with cigarette burns on the bar and beer-stained floors. He moved with precision, calm and confident, like someone used to being in control, like someone used to being obeyed. He sat down without a word, scanned the shelves behind me, and ordered top shelf like it was routine. No hesitation. When I poured the drink, he asked if I liked working there, his voice soft, almost too smooth. I gave the polite smile, the kind bartenders are trained to master, and told him I didn't mind it. And I didn't get any bad vibes from him. Not at first. He wasn't sleazy, not overtly strange, just polished. Almost too polished. Like a character playing a role a little too well. He spoke like a friendly stranger, small talk, compliments, a joke here and there. But then his questions turned odd. Ever thought about doing something bigger? He asked. His smile never faltered, but something in his eyes darkened, like he already knew my answer wouldn't be what he wanted. Then, out of nowhere, he asked what time I got off. That caught me off guard. Up until that moment, it hadn't felt like flirting. I gave him a vague reply, trying to shake off the tension with a chuckle. He didn't push, just smiled again, like he already knew. Then he left a crisp $100 bill on the bar, too gently, and disappeared into the night without another word. I should have forgotten about it. It was just another strange encounter, or so I thought. A week later, he came back, but this time he wasn't alone. She came in with him, a woman in her mid-30s maybe, dressed like she was trying too hard to stay relevant, like she wanted to be mistaken for someone younger, someone less, knowing. Her smile was too wide, too practiced. When she leaned on the bar, it was like she'd done it 100 times before, like she knew me. The first thing she said wasn't hello, it wasn't a drink order. "You're so pretty," she said, brushing her fingers against my arm. They lingered just a moment too long. I laughed politely, but everything about her felt wrong. Calculated. The man, oddly, said nothing. They ordered drinks, and then the questions began. Personal ones. How long I'd worked there, how old I was, where I lived. Harmless on the surface, but too pointed, too precise. I kept my answers short. But I could feel it. She wasn't making conversation. She was studying me. She glanced at him once. They didn't speak, but something passed between them. A look, a knowing. Then she leaned in, lowered her voice, and told me about some exclusive event club she ran. Said she was always looking for young, fun people for private parties. Her smile never reached her eyes. 10 grand for a weekend, she whispered. I laughed it off, forced, hollow. But deep down, something inside me shivered. She didn't let up. Said the money was real. That plenty of girls just like me had already taken them up on the offer. Her smile never flickered, never cracked, not even for a second. And that was the part that got under my skin. That stillness, that unwavering cheer. She kept circling back to the same phrases. Fun, safe, exclusive, like they were rehearsed. Then, like she was just casually inviting me out for a smoke, she said, "You should step outside for a second. There's someone who can explain it better." My pulse jumped. I wasn't pretending anymore. I didn't care if I seemed rude or uptight. I was done playing along. "I'm good," I said flatly. No smile. No warmth. Right then, a group of rowdy regulars stumbled in, laughing, cracking jokes, filling the place with life and noise. Her face changed in an instant. Just a flicker, but I saw it. That carefully constructed friendliness faltered. She turned to the man beside her, and without another word, they both stood and left. I was rattled. No use lying about it. I didn't know what that was. Some kind of trafficking ring? A scam? Something worse? Whatever it was, they were targeting me. That much was clear. I told my boss, told my co-workers. We all agreed to stay alert in case they came back. My boss promised he was never more than 15 minutes away, and the bar had enough security cameras to scare off most trouble. That helped. But the truth? There wasn't much else I could do, because technically they hadn't done anything. I tried to forget it, to move on. But then came the car. A few nights later, same shift, closed up, dead quiet. I stepped outside and across the street under a broken streetlight. A car, engine off, just sitting there. I told myself it was nothing, but my skin prickled like static, the kind that makes your hair stand up before a storm. I clutched my keys like a weapon, walked fast, didn't look up. Once in my car, I checked the mirror, still there. I pulled out, so did they. They kept back, far enough to seem casual, but every turn I took, they matched. Left, right, another left. Still behind me, always just out of reach. My breath was shallow, my heart was hammering, but I forced myself to think, to act. And I turned into the parking lot of a police station. They peeled off instantly, tires screaming in the quiet night. After that, nothing, for a while. But I knew it wasn't over. It was a slow night. Weekday shift, hardly anyone coming in. Midnight was creeping up, and I was thinking about closing early. That's when the door creaked open. It was her. I froze, sent a text to my boss under the counter, fast and discreet. She was standing there with that same plastic smile, gliding over to the bar like we were old friends. Her hands folded neatly in front of her like she was at a job interview. "I thought I'd come check on you," she said. My stomach twisted, but I stayed cool. "We're closing," I said evenly. "You'll have to head out." She gave me a pout, one that didn't reach her eyes, and said, "Just one old-fashioned?" I thought about refusing her, but pouring it might buy time. So I turned around, grabbed the bottle, forced my hands not to shake. Then, click, the unmistakable sound of the front door. I turned. She was gone. The bar was empty, and outside the window, a black van, idling. I ran, locked the front door. My hands fumbled, heart thudding. Then, bang! From the back, metal rattling. Someone was trying to get in. I grabbed the heaviest thing I could find, a metal shaker, and clutched it like a weapon. My other hand hit 911, my voice shaking as I gave them the address. But I knew the cops wouldn't make it in time. I was seconds from bolting when headlights flooded the parking lot. My boss. The banging stopped. The van peeled out with a screech, disappearing into the night. I collapsed into my boss's arms, told him everything. He had gotten their plate number as they sped off. When the cops arrived, we pulled the security footage. It was worse than I thought. Just before she left, the cameras caught them. 2 masked figures crouched outside the front entrance, waiting. Another was at the back, fists pounding, trying to flush me out. They were coordinating. They were ready. And the van? The license plate was unregistered. It's been a while since then. The cops have no leads, no arrests, no answers. My boss doesn't let me work alone anymore, not ever. But still, that unease hasn't left me. Every time I walk behind the bar, every time the door creaks open, I wonder if they're watching, if they're waiting. The part that keeps me up at night? They knew. They knew I'd be alone. And I still don't know how. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I'd run out that front door, and I know, without a doubt, I wouldn't be here to tell the story. It was around 2:30 in the morning, one of those dead hours when even the truckers had mostly disappeared, and I was left alone with nothing but silence and time. I mindlessly scrolled through my phone behind the counter, trying to stay awake, trying to make the minutes pass faster. Eventually, I stepped outside for some air. It was cold enough to make my breath fog, and I rubbed my hands together to keep the chill off. The lot was empty. Just the fuel pumps, the dark stretch of highway, and a line of dense trees in the distance. The neon sign above the store buzzed and flickered faintly, and the air had this wet, hazy quality, like you could see the cold hanging in it. Just as I turned to head back inside, something caught my eye. A figure standing still behind one of the pumps. I flinched, not understanding how I hadn't noticed him before. He was wearing a dark red hoodie, the hood pulled up, hands buried deep in his pockets. There was no car nearby. He clearly hadn't stopped to fuel up. But he wasn't coming toward the store either. He just stood there, half turned toward the building, watching. At first I thought maybe he was waiting for someone. But there was something off about him. The way he shifted around, slowly pacing in a tight little circle, it didn't feel right. I slipped back inside but kept an eye on him through the glass, pretending not to notice while I watched. I kept hoping someone else would pull in, maybe scare him off. But after a few minutes, he started walking toward the entrance, slow at first, then suddenly fast, like he'd made up his mind all at once. He pushed through the door and walked up to the counter, silent at first, just staring, like he was sizing me up. Then he spoke, his voice rushed and weirdly rehearsed. He said his car had broken down just before the pumps. He needed a jump or a little gas to get to the next town. The story was paper thin. I could tell he wasn't even trying to make it believable. I offered to call a tow truck. His answer came too quickly. No, he said, shaking his head. All he needed was a flashlight. Maybe a little help looking under the hood. Everything about him screamed off. The way he talked, the way he watched my face, it felt like he was trying to gauge my response. Test me. But to be fair, night shift weirdos were nothing new. I started wondering if maybe he was just high, or awkward, or both. So I asked where his car was, and he told me it was just past the highway entrance. I didn't buy it until he pointed at the security monitor behind me. I turned to look. Sure enough, there was a car parked out there. My gut twisted, but then something clicked. I had just been outside. There was no car. I stared at the monitor again. Near the back bumper, something moved, just barely. A crouched figure hiding low, barely in view. A cold dread spread through my chest. I forced a smile. Sure, I said. Let me just grab my phone from the office. I turned, slow and casual, and the second I was out of his line of sight, I slammed my hand against the panic button under the counter. The alarm screamed through the store. I braced myself, half expecting him to come at me. But he didn't. What he did was worse. He stopped fidgeting, stopped acting nervous. He relaxed. His whole posture changed. Then he smiled. Not embarrassed, not panicked, just calm. Like he'd known all along this might happen. Like it was a joke to him. In a smooth, almost graceful motion, he turned and bolted. I ran to the monitor just in time to see two figures sprinting, not toward the car, but into the woods behind the station. The car sat there, untouched. Engine off, lights off, empty. By the time the cops arrived, it was exactly like that. No sign of the men, no footprints leading away. Nothing. Then one of the officers pointed something out. The front passenger door was wide open. There had been a third person inside. I gave my statement, handed over the surveillance footage. A few days later, they followed up. The car had been stolen from a town over 100 miles away, reported missing nearly a week earlier. No one came to claim it. No one filed a report for the men. No other crimes tied to it. Just a car. And 3 people who vanished into the woods like they were never there. It's been months now. Still no answers. All I know is I'll never work another night shift again. Most of the customers who came in were either night owls wasting time or truckers grabbing last-minute supplies before disappearing back onto the highway. That's why I noticed him. At first, he didn't stand out. Just another guy wandering the aisles, probably waiting on someone. But after a few minutes, something felt off. He wasn't shopping. He wasn't even pretending to. Every time I looked up, there he was, hovering nearby, not browsing, not moving, just standing a little too still by the clearance section, watching me. I tried to brush it off, told myself I was overthinking. Big store, lots of space. Maybe he was just slow, but the way he moved, always just close enough for me to notice, yet never touching a single item, it unsettled something deep inside me. I braced myself for a cheesy pickup line, maybe even a creepy compliment, but he never approached. He didn't want to talk. He wanted me to see him. I reached for my radio to call someone, but dead batteries. Perfect timing. I considered going to find the manager when a hand wrapped around my arm. I nearly jumped out of my skin. But before I could react, a woman's voice rang out. Loud, warm, way too familiar. "There you are," she said cheerfully, slipping into a monologue about how she'd been looking everywhere for me. I turned, confused, only to face a woman I had never seen before in my life. She smiled wide, holding my arm like we were old friends reuniting. Before I could speak, she leaned in close and whispered, "That guy's been recording you. Follow me." My stomach dropped. I turned slightly. He was still there. Only now he wasn't even pretending to browse. He was staring. A cold, paralyzing fear gripped me. I let her pull me. I didn't question it. She kept talking, loudly, casually, like we were old friends catching up. Something about a trip, an inside joke. I could barely hear her. My thoughts kept circling back to him. Had he really been filming me? I wanted to look back to check if he was following us, but I couldn't summon the courage. She moved quickly, guiding me through aisles, away from the registers, past the self-checkout, and toward the dim warehouse section. I was relieved until I realized she wasn't stopping. We were heading toward the side exit, the one with no cameras, the one only employees used for shipments. That's when it hit me. She wasn't rescuing me. She was leading me out. I didn't scream. I just yanked my arm back with everything I had. She lost her grip for a second, enough for me to break free, and I ran. She shouted after me. She yelled my name. I never gave it to her. I didn't stop running until I saw one of my co-workers rushing toward me, probably because I'd been screaming. I begged them to call security. By the time we looked back, she was gone. Both of them were. Security reviewed the footage. Just like I feared, they walked in together. The man's face was crystal clear in a few frames. Hers always turned away, always hidden. I knew she was the one behind it all, and somehow the cameras missed her face completely. It was all planned. Every move, every word, every glance. The police classified it as a failed abduction attempt. The man should be easy to track. But her, I still don't know how she knew my name. And that's what keeps me up at night. They weren't looking for someone. They were looking for me.